Death Row by Maria Hector. Narrated by JahBunny, better known as the Badass. 1. Genesis. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pasture. He restoreth my soul. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Psalms 23, 1 to 4. Again, I repeat this last sentence, and again I found it did not dispel or mitigate the deep-rooted fear and desperation that I had seized my mind since July had gone about their deliberate. Again, I repeated this last sentence, and again I found it did not dispel or mitigate the deep-rooted fear and desperation that had seized my mind since the jury had gone about their deliberation some 2 hours ago. Beginning from the very moment of their departure, I have gone over this prior countless times, frenetically seeking equilibrium and a ray of optimism, realizing with each repetition that it did nothing to ease my state of mind. Still, it facilitated a conscious distraction from the frightening reality of the situation, my secret hideout. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, thy comfort me. Mechanically mopping the sweat from my forehead, I gaze around the courtroom at the people moving about in type-toed reverence, tiptoe reverence. Behind me, the visitors' gallery was filled with friends, relatives, curious old ladies, freaks, and professional case watchers. Attracted but unattracted, they all come with fixed questioning stare on their faces, believing themselves a part of the unfolding spectacle, not understanding that their present was irrelevant, that in the midst of all the murmuring, stares, and growling excitement, I was never more alone. Beside me, Winston sat immobile, shut away in his own thought. We were charged gently with our lives, now resting on the decision of 12 people. For now, we were all alone in the separate world of our thoughts. Brutally, the fear within surged to capture my consciousness, blocking out the irrelevancies of the world, dragging my mind to focus on the awesome threat at hand, forcing me into the darkness of panic. Justice would prevail. Justice would prevail. Justice would prevail. I urgently sought to convince myself. Surely the judge and jury would not be caused to error by the lie represented by the crown. Justice by some unexplained interrelation of the fact would prevail. Yes, justice would prevail. Would it? Would it? A voice born of experience seems to ask from the inner recess of my mind. Again, I plunge into fear, despair, desperation. Only God could help. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pasture. He restored my soul. Yea, though. Abruptly, a court orderly appeared in the entrance and signaled to the policeman scattered around the courtroom. People hastened through the doors in search of seat. Up front, the attorneys put out their cigarette, and the general murmur petered out. I was by then assured that the jury was about to return. That all-important moment I had so long awaited, with such fear and hope, had arrived. As the jury filed into the court, I mysteriously scrutinized their individual features for some indication of the decision lodged in their mind. Why were they seemingly avoiding my stare? If only one would glance in my direction. Shifting my gaze, I rate the face of the other gathered in the court. Maybe I would find some sign here. I was immediately frustrated, for the stare fell into two categories. The cemeterian, relative, and friends, whose stare told of their optimism and hope, and the vulture, the freak, and professional case watcher, whose eager stare told of their lust for an occasion of excitement. All the characters in this bizarre life drama were assembled. The last chapter had begun, as the clerk chanted the now familiar, oh yeah, God save the Queen, familiarizing the resumption, the fear I had so desperately fought since morning now seems to certain to conquer my fragile mental equilibrium. The Queen was safe and secure thousands of miles away in another world, yet the clerk was entreating God to save her. What about me, sitting in limbo right before his eye? What about me? How do you find the accused, Maria Hector? The straight-faced clerk inquired of the foreman of the jury after ordering me to stand. Silence. The whole world had come to a halt. Silent. We find him guilty as charged. Silent force heavily, fear-filled, silent dizziness engulfed me. The whole place was swaying. From somewhere behind me come a scream, followed by explicit murmuring. Something was wrong. Why did not the judge or somebody correct them? Fool! Vultures! Why did not somebody correct them? Where was God? Where was God? Though the A's of what was from what was not, somebody was shouting, sit down, sit down. The shout becomes and putting me down, shattering my hope, killing me. They were killing me. Mechanically, mechanically, I sat. Nothing mattered now. They were going to hang me. No longer did I search for any fantasy. The truth was too awesome, too real and painful. I was dead. Dead. Stand up, the vice order. Mechanically, I complied. Nothing mattered now. Did I have anything to say before sentence was passed? Did I have anything to say? I want to shout, to curse the judge, jury, life, the vultures, and freak. I wanted to beg them to reconsider their decision, to cry, to bawl, to shout. Did I shout? Sit down! That same voice. Sit down! Something had gone wrong again. I did not hear the sentence pass. Sit down! Sit down! The instant court adjourned. It was pandemonium. Behind me, the crying now sound like a bereaved choir. The police sergeant bawled for another to close the door, stimulatiously ordering the jostling crowd in the gallery to remain seated. Three other cops moving to surround me, each taking possession of a section of my trousers waist, handcuffed and draped. I was all through the now solemn crowd gathered in the corridor to the cell downstairs, locked away pending transportation to death row. I become bitter and frustrated. Babylon has committed me to die, not because I was guilty as charged, but because the whole concept of justice as perpetrate the court of the land was distorted and perverted. Justice is this chamber of mockery and generalship, trickery or deceit, was not concerned with the truth. The truth was irrelevant. Reason rebuffed and equality ever absent. Nor was the process concerned with the merit of right and wrong. The determinant factor of the process was the status of who had done the wrong or was innocent. If Justice clothed in her wig and multicolored cloak, accompanied by her 7 or 12 subordinate, gazed upon the dock and was not sufficiently impressed by the status of the accused and of representation, she would close the door to her favors. No representation of facts, submission of reason, or line of morality would induce her to open this all-important door. That might very well mean life or death, freedom or captivity. Status was the key. Status built of material and our political influence. Without this prerequisite, all effort to gain her favor are futile. For she is a prostitute, her favor for sale. Now I stood fearful and frustrated before her closed door. There was nothing abstract about this prostitute process of injustice as it unfolded before my eyes. The judge, jury, crown, and defense counsel, witness myself, and Winston were the character of the instant. Where justice is honorable, it is the independent conclusion of the interrelation of facts, faith, opinion, and people aligned to the universal principle of right and wrong that mattered. It was because the process was perverted and the interrelationship of facts, evidence, and law. The entire courtroom fiasco, not an independent entity, but directly influenced, developed, and subjected to the ism and movement of their borders society. That I, a working class dread, had no chance in the court of Babylon. And what of God? Did not he have a responsibility here? He being the omnipotent knew I had not murdered the deceased. So how come he allowed people to swear on his Bible and then spit out such a lie and distortion? Why did he allow such lies and misrepresentation to railroad me into the sentence of death? The drive out to the old capital across the causeway seems quick on this occasion. Burdened and despondent, I peep through the ventilators, gazing at the familiar landmark, going by for the last time, while mentally castigating life, fate, and Babylon for their concerned effort to destroy me. If this was my predetermined fate, the ignominy of death and the gallows, then I would have been content, stillborn. Halfway through my second pack of cigarettes, the imposing 18th century structure of the St. Catherine District Prison come to view. Dark and foreboding, its massive structure dominated the surrounding with that grey, archaic, and wasted appearance that immediately called to mind santorum, poorhouse, graveyard. Indeed, this was the habit of existence for the majority of its inhabitants. The sight of the busting of captivity dragged my already weary spirit further into the darkness of despondency. By the time the oven came to a halt before its gate, Once inside, the handing over ceremony was brief, indicative. The police removed the handcuff and the warder replaced them with their prison. I seen a warder behind a beer battered desk, drew up the body receipt, which the cops duly signed. After copying my particulars, the senior warder inquired of my religious affiliation. Not feeling exactly religious after the morning happenings, I replied that I adhere to none. Okay, he said, you are now a Presbyterian. He said it with an air of finality that suggests the matter was closed. Winston was made a Catholic. With this ceremony, I was transferred from a world where I was an individual man to a world where I was just another body to be itemized, documented, and securely warehouse awaiting the will and caprice of the earth gods. Inside the prison proper, my initial perception of the place was confirmed. Over and above the purgent stink of waste, decay, and disinfectant was an abnormal uniformity of its structure that did not suggest sane human inhabitant. I forced somber funeral parlor silent, and that is coming from nowhere, going nowhere movement of its captive, despising broken spirit and forced stagnation. This was hell. After the ceremony, we were escorted to the reception room. As the name implies, this is the era where all incoming prisoners are processed and entry. Here, one is fingerprinted, photographed, and a detailed description record. For the first time since my incarceration in 1970, I was given a thorough skin search by an enthusiastic warder under the eyes of an officer who was satisfied that I had no cash or weapon, only offer preying down my throat and peeping up my ass. Our clothes taken, we were given prison uniform made from coarse white material. At the sight of the uniform, I almost laughed. Not only was the suit ridiculous too large, but more sinister was the word condemn written in bold black letters across the back of the shirt. A1 was scrawled in the same size letter on the front of one leg of the short trousers. As soon as I put on the shirt, the writing on the back began to bug my mind. Why the hell did they have to write on the back of the shirt? Did somebody believe I would forget my status? As yet, I was not aware that this was part of the psychological torture to which prisoner and death row were forcefully subjected to as a policy of administration. From the reception room, we were moved to death row. Death row is that area of the prison particularly secure and segregated from the general prison population for the location of prisoner under sentence of death. Previously, the row was conveniently located some 50 yards south of the gallows. As the influx of such prisoners increased, death row was relocated to occupy one ward and A block. Each block had 4 wards. The row was A1. The marketing on the short in time. A1 was filled and the ward above A2 was fortified to entertain the increase. Like A1, its extension, A2 was cage with interlaced steel. Each door had 4 locks, and as we approached, there were conspicuous absent of any sound or movement on the row. A posse of curious warder and prisoners assembled at the entrance to the row. One warder came forward asking my name. Maria Hector, I replied. How old you is? 19. Unexpectedly, I was knocked to the ground. You know you talking to your companion boy? He was fuming with righteous indignation. When you're talking to me, boy, you damn well say, sir. How old is you, boy? 19, sir. He smiled. Imagine a little pissing tail boy like you out there kill people. Eh? Without waiting for an answer, he continued. Why you kill the man? I no kill no one, sir. I replied timidly. How you do it? Then he asked, pointing to Winston. I innocent, sir, come the reply. So the two of you is innocent, eh? He moved closer to Winston. Answer me, boy. Winston was going to get his. Answer me, boy. Moving in, eyes glaring, a pillar of self-righteousness. Winston was punched against the rail. So you is a boxer. At Winston's futile attempt to block the punch, hampered by the handcuff. Lock them down. The same senior warder from the gate arrived on the scene. Lock them down. Never in my life was I ever so burdened, weak, and desperate at the first few minutes after the door slammed shut. The honors of the day happening, the traumatic and fearful present, and the dark, precarious future rest like giant weight on my soul. Everything was one cold blanket of reality, and there was nothing I could face my consciousness to accept as diversion. No mental escape or pretended optimism, just reality and me. It is difficult for the rational mind to accept the finality of death, even though the finality of death is rational. Indeed, to accept the finality of death is to reject the desirability of life. Few people experience the state of mind where the desirability of life is rejected. Those who do, the psychologists declare and balance. The national mind reject the the finality of death because it is assured of no other existence but the present life period. Of course, we were all taught of heaven and hell, alleged to be the predetermined final home of all mankind. But as yet none have gone to either destination and returned to tell the tale. This, this is the only life man know. And even when the pastor assure him that he's got a place in heaven, he's in no hurry to get there. The very reason for ongoing scientific research and effort to identify that magic formula to prolong life stems from man difficulty in accepting the finality of death. Vaguely, of course, man accepts that his body will age, his tissue withered, and his body die. To this end, he will ensure himself and such like. But when death arrives in its finality, will still be asked the doctor if he has tried everything. The reality of planned murder was different, was a different thing. Man has that capacity for cruelty, violence, and the destruction of others that lack no illustration in the page of history. This characteristic of mankind is never far from the forefront of his mind. Had I been up against the police or the Spangler, local gang of youths on the street, I would have a chance. This was a different thing. This was Babylon, that could unfeeling system, that cold and unfeeling system of class, rule, domination, that self-defensely prostitute. It will, through institution of social control, exploitation and exploitation. I would not be the first life snuffed out by Babylon. Thousands had been murdered with slave labor, whip, gallows, guns over the period of its 300 odd years of domination to keep system intact.